Hello friends, today we are going to discuss educational technology. One of the oldest definition of educational technology is it's the development, evaluation of system, techniques and aids to improve the process of human learning, given by National Council of Educational Technology in 1967. That is, the concept comprises of development as well as evolution of a system, which further comprises of techniques, means, aids, support to improve with the ultimate aim of processes of human learning, that is, in any way to improve human learning, that is, in a context is classroom learning. Speaking specifically, educational technology is systematic application of science, technology in the field of education. Systematic means it's not random, it's sequential, logical. Science, what science is? That is, it's a literature collected through experimentation and observation. These are the two things which characterize sciences as science. Technology means a semblance of all aids, techniques, tools which strengthen another discipline. For example, the water boils at 100 degrees Celsius. It's a concept of science, but the means, instruments, apparatus, etc. employed to show that water boils at 100 degrees Celsius is technology. Technology is a kind of mule which can't breed of its own. Technology in turn confirms sciences. So, science and technology together in the field of education, if applied in a systematic manner, is educational technology. It has concern with input, output and process aspects of education, that is, the process is quite sequential. It's not random, it's well organized. The three aspects discussed, that is input, process and output, are being discussed now. That is, input means entering behavior of the student, that is previous knowledge of the student. At what level he or she stands, that's input for our process to work upon. And this has concern with their comprehension level. Again, that is their level of understanding with respect to a concept under consideration. The curriculum of science is spiral, other disciplines have concentric curriculum. So, with progression of different levels of schooling, a child is supposed to master the skills. So, the input or the entering behavior from one level to another may differ with respect to a concept in hand. For example, the chapter metal and non-metal. For a secondary school child, the entering behavior may be the physical and the chemical properties of metals, but at higher level their further application aspects of the same thing may be the entering behavior for them. It comprises of their motivational level and previous knowledge achievement also, that is, an input as an aspect of educational level, that is, up to what extent they are motivated enough to undergo learning. Then teaching learning process, that is a process aspect of education. It comprises of devices, means of learning process, that is the tools in hand, means in hand, process in hand, that focus on creating relevant situations for learning. Relevant situations for learning means there should be a voice in the class, but there should not be noise in the class. Voice means the teacher has allowed the students to undergo discussion, deliberation, cross question, debate, etc. So, there is a voice in the class, but there should not be noise, chaos, etc. That is, nothing is meaningful. It is chaos. It's all around creating a nonsense. So, creating situation means allow the students to work upon. For example, in a class of languages, unless and until we don't allow the students to talk, how can they master the new language like Sanskrit or English or any other language? So, pin drop silence doesn't mean that learning is taking place, because the students maybe at mental level, at somewhere else. So creating relevant situations for learning means allow the learner to assert. The process aspect employs appropriate teaching learning material for respective desired behavior. For example, at primary school level, we can ask the students to undergo observation, employ their senses to infer from the environment. Same is true for a middle school student. For example, if I have to teach the structure of flower, rather than describing on board stem, carpel, pistil, etc., it is better to allow him or her to visit with me in the garden and collect different kinds of flower, dissect them, and then find what is stamen, calyx, corolla, androecium, gynoecium, etc. Similarly, at secondary level, something at abstract level must be given to them to gauge, to predict. That is, appropriate teaching learning material in the form of situations may work out for the child also to elicit desired behavior. Output, that is the terminal behavior of the students. That means the child is at exit point of the system now. System means with respect to that teaching learning situation, what learning he or she has undergone, and it clarifies the objectives achieved through content. That is, when do we write in a lesson plan that after the lesson plan the student will be able to do this thing, this thing, this thing. That means we are expecting this much output from them. It may identify the characteristics of content also, of course, what difficulties we faced, what problems were raised from their side, that is student side. Was it so expected or something deviant in nature? So it may help me to identify the characteristics of content in hand also. Educational technology as a concept involves formulation of learning objectives. That is, when we frame learning objective, that is the students will be able to this thing and that thing, that is a domain of educational technology. We enter in a class with some intention, that is learning objectives. Why we are teaching? We are not random in our approach with respect to teaching. So that means we have learning objective in our hand. It aims at developing teaching strategies, to develop my own teaching strategies that may vary from situation to one situation to another, to adopt the tested strategies to work out. Last, designing evaluation techniques, how to evaluate them. That's a very important component of any classroom situation. Next is the characteristics of educational technology, that is, it aims at modernization of teaching methodology. Just merely adopting a OHP, overhead projector, or any slides, etc., doesn't mean the person is quite modern enough, but adopting using digital resources in the classroom may elevate the level of classroom learning also. That means the person is using modern tools and techniques with respect to his teaching. It attempts to bring desirable modification in the behavior of students. Definitely different ultra modern techniques fetch a student's attraction to work with. For example, just reading, writing, cramming, retrieving, belching, etc., undergoing rehearsal, etc., are routine, cumbersome, boring act for the child. But if the same thing is done through some website, through computers, through some any other device, may be attractive for him or her to work upon. Rather than giving a straightforward act to write a note on Sahara Desert, can't it be better to ask a child to compare the status of Sahara Desert on 3 different websites like In Tradition Wikipedia, Wolfram Alpha, Britannica.com, etc. And whatever information you derive from these 3 sites, it's a kind of open-ended exercise. Whatever information you derive from these 3 sites, you can compare them. So with such kinds of judicious use of technology may inculcate a respect, a sense of interest among them for learning tasks. Educational technology improves classroom dynamism. That is, it's not a one-way technique, it's a two-way. The child himself or herself may be employed. The example which I just mentioned may be proved child-centered for the task rather than monotonous from teacher sides. It enhances the resourcefulness of teachers also. Of course, teacher is himself herself undergoing learning. What kind of difficulties? What are the advantages of these methods, etc. Because in a classroom with respect to intelligence level, we face generally three kinds of students: below average, average and above average. Do all the techniques, do all the websites work equally well for all the child? For example, an above average child who is well versed in technology may find it quite easy to work with a Wikipedia or any other site that I mentioned. So the need is to offer him or her some another task, online task, to do the same work, that is working on the same concept. Finally, it's an ultra modern discipline, that is educational technology of teaching and learning, and it is based on scientific progress. Involves scientific tendencies. It's not random, unorganized, but it's based on certain aspects of scientific tendencies. It is based on scientific methodology. Things are logical, sequential, systematized. It focuses at educational improvement. That is, ultimate aim is the improvement of educational scenario to bring out well versed, techno oriented, skill oriented, concept oriented learners in the society. Educational technology as a discipline gets enriched through research. Research is a kind of mean which can enrich any discipline. So why not educational technology? So educational technology has opened the doors for research also to enrich it. It has wide scope also, that is, it's not confined up to primary or any particular level. It has its own its domain can range from any level with respect to school system. The general objectives of educational technology are to facilitate transmission of information. Look at the word transmission of information. It's not transmission of knowledge, because the thing may be knowledgeable for the expert, but the thing may be information for the novice. Information is processed upon, worked upon, only then knowledge construction takes place. But unfortunately, the teacher works with respect to his knowledge domain and assumes that at a similar pace knowledge is being constructed on other side. But do remember, it's information for him or her to work upon. Next is organize the content in logical psychological sequence depending upon the age of the child as well as level of the school system. Psychological sequence means it organizes the content from simple to complex, concrete to abstract. Concrete means it's at the beginning level. Abstract means it's at somewhat higher level of learning. Abstraction takes place only when a child has mastered the skill at concrete level. It's not possible for any person to jump directly at level of abstraction. Similarly, in class 12th in mathematics, we find differentiation, the chapter of differentiation and chapter of integration. And integration can be learnt when a child has learned differentiation. Is it possible for any child to undergo direct learning with respect to integration? Because integration is at abstract level, differentiation is at concrete level. So that means even in a mathematics textbooks, differentiation comes first, followed by after some chapter, after two chapter, or immediately after that chapter of integration also. So that is, it's a kind of general objective of educational technology that has been met in textbook of mathematics, that the content has been organized in some psychological sequence. Another is to evaluate learners' performance. For example, certain activities can be given to them depending upon their level of age, school level, only then they can evaluate and provide feedback. That is, even their achievement acts, works out as a kind of feedback for the teachers also. What were the difficulties raised by them, faced by them, to what extent they could be solved by the teacher. Specific objectives of educational technology are to identify educational needs of students. There are individual differences among the students with respect to their skills also, but there are individual differences with respect to educational needs also. So rather than giving a kind of spoon feeding or giving them a uniform lecture, we need to meet that. For example, the child which is below average intelligent may be asked to define something. He or she may be given well practice in defining one line definition, etc. The average child may be asked to describe a process or explain a process. And above average child may be asked to solve a problem with respect to some hypothetical situation of that content may be created and may be given to him or her to solve. So, with respect to same concept in hand, we can meet the educational needs of these three kinds of students. Determine classroom objectives in behavioral terms, ultimately what we are intending to achieve. For example, if the child is able to discriminate between Fahrenheit and Celsius means of temperature measurement, now one of the mean can be, can he or she measure temperature through thermometer, through different kinds of thermometers, etc. Only then we can assume, expect, predict that some learning with respect to the thing in hand has taken place. Another is make judicious use of appropriate software, hardware, mass media and communication techniques like computers, radio, television, overhead projectors, PowerPoint presentations, mic, camera and other digital modes or means of communication. They involve the judicious use. If they are judiciously used, then the specific objective of education technology has been met. Another is the scope of educational technology, identification of educational objectives that I will discuss and curriculum development. That is, it does not work in exclusion to curriculum. It works for the curriculum. It works within curriculum. Curriculum means here the curricular activities with respect to academics have been taken into account. Another is development of teaching learning material, keeping in view the nature of concept as well as nature of learner. Just like preparation of slides, PowerPoint presentation with animation effect while narrating them some story, the worth of anything may be quite attractive for them. Another is analysis of teaching learning, that is what kind of devices could be suitable for them, what kind of learning scenario met their requirement, etc. Some related concepts of educational technology are information and communication technology, that is ICT. It comprises of technological tools, resources that facilitate creation, dissemination, storage, sharing, transmission, exchange, management of information either as audio, video, image or text. That is, information must be communicated. If information is not communicated from one end to another, that means the worth, significance, value of that information is lost. Do remember, knowledge construction has value if and only if knowledge information is transferred from one end to another. Otherwise, knowledge construction is not feasible. Information if processed leads to knowledge and knowledge if practiced leads to wisdom. Knowledge alone, it has no value because it has been constructed, then what to do with that? It must be practiced, only then it leads to wisdom. So, that is we have fewer wise person but many information oriented person. So, ICT comprises of all these means, techniques which facilitate creation of information, just like reporting of something, collection of different sets of information and collecting and producing a kind of pool for that. Now, what information is? It is a bits of messages. If we ask a child, Taj Mahal is situated in which state of country? If the child is able to give right answer, we unknowingly say the child has knowledge. No, the child has information. The child may not have information, then will we say the child has no knowledge? So, information may be available to one person, not to another. So, information is available to a person if it is transferred. Knowledge is not transferred, I mentioned, it is constructed. Information must be disseminated, there must be some devices, means to store an information also. Sharing, information must be sharing, like online resources have facilitated this to share. among the similar professionals, among the alike personalities, etc. Because if an worthful information is not suitable to the target audience, it is lost. Transmission. There must be some means to transmit across the media. Exchange. Okay, we may work in synchronization with some bodies, alike bodies, to allow the exchange also. Management. Management of information means, are we able to hold it with us, or over the period of time, like certain online sources, etc., they are not available to the users. Management means, are they available over the time? And all this takes place in the means of audio, video, image, or text. ICT in a broad sense means it facilitates communication like TV, radio, computers, etc., and application services which are concerned with them, like processing, encoding, sending, decoding, storing, retrieval of information. With respect to information, three things are important: that there is a sender, there is a message, and there is a receiver. The sender sends the message, that I mentioned the second thing, the message. It is encoded by the sender. There is some medium, channel, through which the message is transmitted. That medium may be words while in a classroom situation, because whatever encoding has been done by the teacher, that is his or knowledge, through his words as channel. Decoding means the removal of all these coverings by the acceptor at another end, receiver at another end. That means decoding has taken place. So that means what learning has undergone by the child is a kind of decoding. So, but do remember, the knowledge is encoded, but information is decoded by the child. The channel may be in the form of some text also. Words in a general classroom situation, text in some kinds of posters, etc., or some displays, etc. So there can be different meaning also, means to promote that sending of information. So processing, encoding, sending, decoding. Storing on the part of receivers is also equally important, because if an information is lost, it has no significance. It must be stored and it must be retrieved as and when required. So ICT is, in a big sense, comprises of all these aspects to work upon, starting from television, radio, computers, etc., as general means. Then another extension of educational technology is computer and communication technology. ICT in a general sense comprises computer. Computer alone is an example of ICT, but that computer, if equipped with internet, becomes CCT, computer and communication technology. CCT comprises computer as an integral part of ICT, which is an information processing tool. If equipped with internet, opens a new window for the user. That means computer in itself is a kind of information processing tool when it is equipped with MS PowerPoint, MS Word, etc. But if it's not equipped, with internet, now imagine the worth of that computer. You can just type, write, save, use any USB device to retrieve. You cannot do nothing more than that. So with an extension of ICT, that is, the same computer has been equipped with internet, definitely it paves the ways for the learner to work upon, as it has opened a new window for the user. Through internet, through online means, we can undergo collaboration, learning, exchange of information that were described in just few moments ago. So internet also opens the door for a learner to learn, but internet how alone can open? That is through CCT. I have mentioned computer as an example only, however the mobile devices are also available to us, like smartphones, etc., which offer a means for internet to work upon. Even they can pave the way for a learner to work upon. So this is an example of computer and communication technology. Any device which facilitates the usage of internet to work upon serve as a kind of CCT, that is computer and communication technology. CCT in a broad sense stands upon an internet supported computer system where the internet offers a wide variety of learning experiences in such a manner that the user shares the information, asserts himself and visualizes the world through some portal. That is, it facilitates e-learning as well as I-learning. E-learning means electronic learning, I-learning means interactive learning. Sending an email is an example of e-learning, but sending an attachment with that email and that attachment can be worked about that side person serves an example of interactive learning. Even the scanned documents can be worked by person on other side. So that's an example of I-learning, interactive learning. E-learning doesn't facilitate interaction. However, the person can be well communicated with respect to the content in hand. So CCT opens these much doors for the learners to work upon. Conclusion. The contemporary age is technology age that focuses on the spirit to realize the concern of common man for technology. Definitely we are in the grip of technology when the things are growing exponentially. Technology is not an exception to this. But a common man should also realize that it's not a matter of another world for him or her. He can also make access to them. He can also harness the resources. Even the smartphones are not quite far away from any person. So why not to orient them towards a proper usage of them, like online booking of certain tickets, etc. can also pave the means for them to harness these resources and undergo learning. Deduce significance of technology for social development and worth for nation. Imagine the year Y2K. There was a problem of digit 0 with respect to them and certain nations raised their hand. If these problems are not solved, then their railway system and their transport etc. would come to an halt. So it was the year 2000 when this issue was raised. But as the time is progressing, our dependence in some positive sense is increasing on all these resources. So the significance of technology for social development cannot be ruled out, but it has increased over the time exponentially. Thank you.